I want to talk a little bit about crime, an issue that is always there, an issue that is often weaponized by elected officials, an issue that was arguably not handled particularly well by Democrats leading up to the election of November of 2024, but that is also weaponized by Republicans in a completely dishonest way. California Governor Gavin Newsom sort of proverbially stuffed Republican Congressman Mike Smith into a locker. Let me explain. Republican Congressman Mike Smith really thought that he had a zinger. He tweeted at Gavin Newsom in the context of the LA protests, "Governor, I suggest focusing on the lawlessness and crime in Los Angeles and San Francisco instead of auditioning for the 2028 presidential primary with stale talking points." Now, you can practically hear the smugness dripping off of this one. And Gavin Newsom responded with facts where he said, quote, "Your state's homicide rate is 117% higher than California's." This is what happens when you come for a guy with statistics, when the other guy has nothing but, a bad idea for a tweet. And Gavin Newsom didn't just dunk on Mike Smith. He really buried him under his own talking point. And you might recall a similar incident that we covered not long ago. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders tried the same thing. She went on Fox News and she said, "Oh, we would never have the lawlessness and the chaos of California in Arkansas." And Gavin Newsom responded, "Your homicide rate is way higher than ours in San Francisco." And then it also happened when Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, who I find to be one of the most regrettable and despicable members of the Senate right now, Mullen put out a video about the same issue. And Newsom responded, "If you want to discuss violence, let's start with your state's murder rate, which is 40% higher than California's." So let's now zoom out. Republicans love pointing fingers at cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's just popular. They see it as low-hanging fruit. Nobody's going to look too deeply. Oh, it's so dangerous there. But when you look at the per capita homicide rates in many of these deep red states, way higher, way higher. I mean, you look at Louisiana, 16 homicides per 100,000 residents in 2022. That's more than twice the national average of roughly 7 per 100,000. You look at Mississippi, almost 30 gun deaths per 100,000 residents. That's nearly 3 times the rate in California. Now, that's what the numbers show. Now, you present Republicans with this, they either won't know what to say, they'll change the subject. Sometimes they will come up with these tired phrases like, "Well, that's because the people in the blue states are too scared to report the crimes because the police won't do anything." There is no evidence that there is a plague of unreported, undocumented murders happening in blue states. It's just laughable. It's ridiculous. So what the numbers show is much darker crime skies hovering over red states than any of these West Coast sanctuary cities. The murder rates in deep red states is often way higher. Newsom has the receipts. California's homicide rate is lower than the national average, dramatically lower than the red state elected officials that are yelling the loudest. And when you look at the FBI data, red states consistently rank near the top for violent crime. You look at homicide, you look at assault, you look at robbery, you look at Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, all of these above the national average. And you compare that with blue states, California, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. What we see here is red state politicians loving to reflexively blame urban blue enclaves for so-called lawlessness. But that's not actually what's happening. New York City versus Oklahoma City is another popular one. New York State versus Oklahoma as a state. It all points in one direction. Now, I also think I don't know that Kamala Harris handled this the right way as a candidate, but it is also the case that nationally the murder rate has just been coming down. Overall, the United States is becoming a safer place to be in. That doesn't mean we don't care when we see crime outside of our windows. It doesn't mean there isn't work still to do. The improvement isn't uniform, right? States with higher baseline crime can see a reduction, but still have a lot of crime. So this is not a finished issue. But on a per person basis, America's most violent states are in red America. They aren't these blue coastal cities that Republican talking points love to focus on and that right-wing elected officials love to demonize. The other thing is I hate to be, this I know will feel insulting to a lot of my audience. I hate to have to go to such basic arithmetic stuff, but a lot of people don't understand crime rates per capita. If I said to you, France has more robberies than Liechtenstein, I think most of you would intuitively go, wait a second. France has almost 70 million people. Liechtenstein has 40,000 people. Most people would realize if we just compare the numbers, it doesn't tell us much. We need to look at the rates for these things. And the same sort of idea applies here when we look at red states, blue cities, et cetera. So if lawmakers were serious about fighting crime, they should really focus on where the statistics say the problem is the worst. And right now, blue states like California, blue cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, these are not the places at the top of the list, but Republicans don't care because it plays really well with their base. You know, every time we call out Donald Trump's authoritarianism, the right calls it media hysteria. But I want to remind you that Trump admits he's looking for ways to defy the Constitution and maybe even pursue another term. Now, if you don't know the bias behind your news, you might believe, oh, Trump's just teasing us. There's nothing here. Go to ground.news/Pacman and see how media bias influences more than your perception from Trump's policy and ability to understand and undermine constitutional norms. I've been with Ground News for years now because this is what they do. They expose the hidden agendas behind reporting sources and make it easy to compare coverage and understand critical issues. Even better, if I'm reading a story on another site, the Ground News browser extension will flag the source's political bias and give me other reports on the same story so I can verify the information. My viewers get 40% off the same unlimited Vantage plan that I use, so you get their top tier plan for just $5 a month. Go to ground.news/Pacman. The link is in the description, or scan the QR code.